Hello, my name is Eddie, and I am the author of Directions to the Dumpster, which you can get on Amazon.com or www.novumpublishing.com. And I'm going to read from Mercy Street, Directions to Mercy Street, and it's from chapter 5. And to just briefly set it up, it's been a day in the life of surviving on the street, and it's getting late, but evening has come, and Eddie he's at Luther Burbank's wonderful gardens, and he has eaten lunch, and he has written a poem, and he puts away his notepad and collects the plate and napkin to toss in the garbage receptacle. As he double checks the area for garbage, he notices a strange looking large pit or casing for a nut, like a walnut, covered with sharp thorns for protection. He tries to pick it up and he is stabbed by a thorn. He looks at his finger, which was bleeding, and then bent down to pick it up again, this time more carefully. Eddie takes advantage of the moment to recognize the beauty in the sharp nut protective coating. A built in device to ensure the preservation of the tree that created it, then sent it out to survive and continue to preserve what it was given. Received through divine grace, the thorns offer mercy to the plant, its future as intricate as any others in the expanse of an entire universe. For 5 months, he did not want a bicycle or phone. He was hiding behind a dumpster. Now he has been back out, but the same old ways of the street prevent him from what he must do. The same old complications or security risks on the street make having anything or keeping anything next to impossible. He needed it to effectively get things done and, of course, fulfill his purpose. His old friend Harold Sergeson had given him His old friend Harold Sergeson, no longer living in the compound that was Eddie's sanctuary, scraps metal at another location. He had several bicycles for Eddie to choose from. Eddie took a 1975 Schwinn Continental covered in rust. He was restoring it. It was exactly like the bicycle his brother had when they were kids. He thinks of his brother and the rest of his family often. He wondered if he could give it to his brother, who did not want to know him anymore. He thought he would have to see him, but he was still ignoring him. Nobody in Eddie's family will speak to him. He was persona non grata, and it hurt him deeply. Eddie was riding the bicycle, stripped of all the rust and partially painted, while he continued to restore it. He had two locks and chains to keep it secure, or as secure as a bicycle in Sonoma County could be. It was stolen. In a few weeks, he had put countless hours into working on the bike, all wasted. Speaking to Glenn at the mattress store about the latest bike thievery, Eddie referenced pop culture icon Indiana Jones, since he felt the bicycle was a dug up artifact. Eddie said, "Now I'm like Indiana Jones. Remember that guy? You know, his nemesis constantly reminding him, 'You see, Dr. Jones, there's nothing you can possess that I cannot take away.'" It was a setback he now refused to deal with again as he walks. It is another of the many obstacles of surviving unsheltered on the streets, and you cannot predict when it will happen, but in Eddie's experience, eventually it will happen. It was Monday, the first week of what week would start a week of streak of weeks for Eddie, where he would be continuously productive. He wanted an end of the countless attempts to get out of the homeless situation, followed by failure and a retreat to the dumpster, where he hides out and he contemplates giving up. He attributes this to reading and writing, and he is doing well. He has worked for a couple hours at the library, still his only resource. He wrote more press releases and was confirming a spot and preparing to be on a podcast Monday at 7:30. After finishing up the library, he ate a prepared lunch he got from another unsheltered person at the library. He wanted ice cream and walked the 2 miles to CVS that served hard ice cream. As he entered, the clerk gave him a once over. Eddie said, "Hello, how are you?" The clerk ignored his pleasantry, and announced his welcoming to the entire store by taking to the store PA system. "Security, code 232, security." Eddie cannot and probably never will get used to this practice, common in all stores, as he feels he has just been accused of a crime. At the very least, the clerk has told everyone in the store someone has entered, and they are suspicious. Eddie ignores the announcement and continues to the bottled water. As he makes his selection, he noticed the security guard so close, Eddie could smell what he had had for lunch on his breath as he exhaled. Eddie grabbed the bottle and walked towards the ice cream. There was a group of three young people that just had begun placing orders. Adjacent to the ice cream serving area was a display of an outside patio set, where Eddie decided to take advantage of it and rest his tired legs and feet. Seconds after sitting, the store manager, who was near the door and a good distance from the ice cream stick section, had started briskly walking behind the counter, quickly sidestepping to avoid obstacles behind the counter as she scolded Eddie. Hey, you can't sit there. Get off the patio furniture. Eddie quickly got up and said, I'm sorry, I thought I could try it out. The manager barked back, well, no, you can't. The group of three were served and walked away. As Eddie stepped up, he got close to the counter as he could, leaned over and spoke in a low voice, asking the ice cream server, when I came in the store, did I do something wrong? With that, the server began to take her gloves off and called the manager, Joanne, you have to take care of this. I'm not serving him. Eddie, confused about the way he was being treated since entering the store, said, Joanne, no worries. Nobody will have to serve me. I'm good. Thank you. And love one another. He walked out of the store. Oop, the CVS was only a few blocks from Harold's new place. Perfect to tell his story about his recent visit to the CVS. He also had to ask him if he could make an investment. Eddie's publisher does not provide bookstores with books, making it impossible for him to do readings. He gets a substantial discount, but it requires a purchase of 500 books. Eddie walks, not as fast as he would like. It has been a long day of walking, but he makes it to Harold's. He rings the bell and waits. Harold has gone from a whole compound with a house and several barns to renting a room in a friend's small house. A voice from inside inquires, who's there? Eddie replied, Landshark. The voice from inside repeated, who? Eddie gave a proper response. It's Eddie, fast Eddie. The door was opened by a woman and Eddie recognized, but couldn't remember her name, as he is bad with names, saying, hi, I'm Eddie, nice to see you. She replied, you don't remember me? Eddie didn't remember her, just not her name, and said, no, I do. I'm sorry. As usual, I don't mean any disrespect. I'm really bad with names. She gave him a pass, saying, well, all right. My name's June. Harold is in his room. And he said, thank you, June. June, someone once told me, say a name 3 times and I might remember. Eddie knocked and walked to the door. He knew Harold's voice was a welcoming voice and, come on in. Many can say they are many things to anyone. Eddie felt to say, you're my friend, shouldn't be said unless a person can live up to it and exhibit the unconditional love a true friend has for another. Both Eddie and Harold always knew and always will know they are among true friends when they are together. Eddie entered the cluttered room Harold used to have more than enough space for at the compound. They both thought of as a sanctuary at one time. Eddie got right into it about his recent visit to CVS. So, before I get here, I'm down the street at CVS, the one that sells the ice cream. I swear, I wish I was God. I acted as good as God might have behaved from the second I walked in to that store, and they announced me on their public address system as a suspicious person. So dangerous am I, the 6'6", 300-pound athletic security guard had to tail me. Harold, somewhat amused by, he knew where he was going with it, chiming in sarcastically, yes, you sure are a dangerous individual. Eddie was grateful. Thank you. I try. Here's the thing. I walk in there and I behave as good as you would expect God's behavior might resemble. Immediately, they proclaim me a security risk on the public address system. When I walk in, they disrespect me and throw down their gloves, abandoning their responsibility to serve me for no reason at all. If I were God, this would have been great. After leaving, I walk back in, proceed to perform a miracle or two, share intel only God could possess, and prove to them that I am, in fact, God. I ask, how you feel now, ice cream serving person? Who will judge you now? You are lucky. I will give you another chance. Remember, when it comes to judgment, that's my job, not yours. Mine, all mine. Considering the judgment you just made of me, God, I suggest you redeem yourself. Harold agreed. I like George Carlin on religion and the one about Americans not being capable of minding their own business. That's where the judgment begins. They should worry about themselves. Eddie changed the subject. How's the Brew Crew? Harold was raised in Wisconsin. The Brewers are his team. They are in first place. Probably. Oh, I'm sorry. He's responding. Harold raised in Wisconsin said they are in first place. Probably come down to them and the Dodgers. Eddie said Dodgers got some rifle arms. Harold insisted Brewers got a couple great starters and a decent bullpen too. Eddie recalling last season, yeah, they battled it out in the NLCS. Came down to, as always, pitching, which is why my Yankees cannot win in October. No pitching. Changing the subject again to his book, Eddie asks, all right, Harold, so this publisher won't provide books for the stores. I need to buy books and sell them myself. Here is what I need to do. Since I get a 40% discount, I buy 500 books. The cost is $7,000. At $25 per book, it is a $5,000 profit. You asked me if I knew of any investment opportunities. Want to make this investment? Harold asked, where do you plan to sell the books? Eddie replied, at bookstores. When and where I do a reading, I will send the books ahead. They have consignment contracts and they won't let me do a reading without books being available. Eddie continued, I have sponsorship from Homeless Action and Peace and Justice Center, Sonoma County. All I have to do is prepare a presentation reading event for Directions to the Dumpster. Harold mentioned his finances. Well, I don't exactly have the cash on hand. I got money in a bunch of assets in different places. I can't do it at this moment. Eddie sympathized. Yeah, man, that sucks. I will have to figure out something. I must and want to do readings, uh, but without books, I cannot do readings at bookstores. Man, no mercy, no place. I am not anywhere near finding home. Man, I need God to show me some mercy. That's it, Mercy Street. I need to find directions to Mercy Street. Then I can find home again and know the best place to start. And I know the best place to start looking. Harold said, "Oh, yeah? Where would that be?" Eddie replied, "The church, of course. Would be the most logical place to get directions to Mercy Street. I will start calling them all tomorrow and see if they will let me do readings in their church." Eddie stood up saying, "Well, I guess I will be on my way. I do not know where to go." "Oh, do you have a blanket?" Harold grabbed a Green Bay Packers blanket on his bed and said, "Sure, man. Here." As he tossed it, Eddie said, "Thank you. Every time you let me borrow the Packer blanket, I feel honored and privileged to know I have your trust in me. As usual, I will return it." Eddie went back out on the street. It was late. He had an exceptionally long day. It is best when surviving on the street without shelter to keep moving. He walked a few miles toward downtown, then past a park he called the Fish of a Different Color Park. It was nighttime, and the lights with all the colors of the spectrum were illuminating the glorious fish, a magnificent, unique work of art. A spectacular statue portrayed in this brilliant display of nature, enhanced at night, displaying the creativity and enhanced with a brilliant light show. He hears a familiar voice, the soft voice of a female. It is Carrie calling him. Fast Eddie. Eddie waves and walks towards her. She is near the bathroom. As usual, she is completely covered with clothing. Eddie knows her voice. He reaches her and they hug. Eddie says, "Hi, Carrie. Nice to see you. Are you okay? How was your day?" She says, "Hi, Fast Eddie. Today was not bad. I am okay. Thanks again for this morning." Eddie said, "Anytime. In fact, in a matter of moments, my card will have a deposit. Are you hungry?" Carrie said, "No, but do you have any toothpaste?" Eddie said, "I do, and soap too." "Do you need to use some?" She said, "Definitely. But where?" Um, Eddie said, "Great question. As you know, I have had security situations in this very spot in the middle of the day." Carrie said, "I would feel safer if you could hang out with me. We can go in here." She led him to the bathroom. Carrie went in first, and Eddie followed. He closed the door and he took out the soap. Carrie began to undress. Impossible for him to not notice her perfect body as he handed her the soap. They looked into each other's eyes. Slowly, each one of their smiles widened. As he placed the soap in her hand, Carrie said, "I love you, Fast Eddie." Eddie could sense she wanted to be saying, "I love you, Daddy," to her father. And he could almost hear, "I love you, Daddy," from his daughter. As she turns, Eddie watches her, starting from the light brown hair she has been coloring much darker every time he sees her. He touches the blades of her shoulders, her light, obviously soft young skin. She curves perfectly down to her small of her back. Eddie stops looking. He also turns and he looks at the door where any security alerts might present themselves. His admiration is strictly paternal. They were both assured of this after many sincere, heartfelt conversations. Their relationship was solidified. In the environment where they both survived, there is no security. Carrie is expressing an extremely enormous amount of trust in Eddie. For Carrie to be in this place with him was honorable for Eddie. He also put himself at risk. If he had to defend her, he would. He is tired and relaxed by leaning against the wall. He walked many miles in the day. Eddie began to ask Carrie a question. "Carrie," but he stopped. His hesitation prompted Carrie to say, "Fast Eddie, I love you. It's okay, whatever it is, because I know you. Usually we have deep, cool talk, stuff I like to talk about. You listen. I know that you are sincerely never judging me or anyone. Sometimes you get political, and I'm like, enough. That is when you ask me about me, and I love that. I never think that you do not understand. Politics is your thing. Very cool thing, just not my thing. We undeniably both have the same understanding of what everyone's individual rights ought to be able to be themselves and have the things they want." Eddie said, "Yep, as long as nobody is getting hurt. You are talking about liberty. Right on." She said, "See, you understand exactly." Carrie chuckled. And Eddie said, "But liberty is political." Carrie said, "You're right. And I put all my trust in you to restore liberty for all. Now, that is way too much time on the subject for me," Eddie said, "and a boatload of work for me." They both laughed, and she continued, "You are going to get out of this situation and off the streets. I know you are. Everyone out here knows that, except you." And he said, "Thank you." She said, "For what?" He said, "For showing me an enormous amount of trust, especially considering the environment we're surviving in." Claire was not understanding and said, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Eddie said, "It makes me feel really good that a beautiful young woman like yourself is comfortable with this. That you will say you will feel safer and request my presence is nice. I mean, I walk into a store and they act like Jesse James just walked in. You trust me because of who I am. You really know me. You know I'm not creepy." Carrie and Rubber said, "I heard a little freaky." They both laugh, and Carrie continues, "No, you're not even close to creepy. I love you, Fast Eddie. I want you to know that I love you like a daughter," Eddie said. I know that you know this, or we would not be sitting here like this, you naked and all. They both start laughing again. Eddie has turned to where they can make eye contact in the mirror, the door, and says, "We have developed a dynamic that is so completely father daughter, and it is natural and a healthy thing that we did. You're a beautiful person. I love you. I hope